Hello and welcome to Beyond the Noise, the podcast series from PR Week. I'm John Harrington, the editor of PRWeek UK. And before we start, I wanted to quickly mention some important PR Week events and awards coming up. The deadline to enter the Brand Film Awards, which celebrates the best brand storytelling on film, is 6th of February. PR Week's Corporate Affairs Awards is also still open for entries. The deadline there is 13th of February, so get your entries in for both. Meanwhile, PR Week's annual Crisis Communications Summit returns to London on the 12th of February. Hear from top names including Samsung UK, Every and Royal Mail. Spaces are limited, so book your place today. Find out more about PR Week UK events and awards at prweek.co.uk/events. So, talking of crises, and onto the podcast. Our guest today is an expert on AI and comms at one of the biggest global holding companies. Erin Lanuti is Chief Innovation Officer at Omnicom PR Group, which includes well-known agencies including Ketchum, FleishmanHillard and Novelli. Welcome, Erin. It's great to have you here joining us from New York. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. And we really appreciate you coming on to talk about this really fascinating, fast-moving situation at the moment. Before we get on to the main topic, it would be good to have a bit of an idea of your own background and what your role involves at OPRG.
Sure. So I am the Chief Innovation Officer at OPRG, which means I partner with our agencies, Fleischman, Porter, Ketchum, Portland, and many others, to essentially help them with data, tech, AI, new product offerings, and a whole bunch of other things that might come my way on a given day. I've been at OPRG for 5 years, and it is a tremendously fun place to be. We are involved in a bit of everything all over the world.
Fantastic. Well, you're as clued up as anyone, I think, then to talk about the sort of crazy issues, crazy scenes we've had in the world of tech and AI in recent days. So I'll get onto that now. Of course, what I'm referring to is the way the AI world has been rocked in the past week or so by the emergence of DeepSeek, the Chinese company behind the new AI chatbot R1. So for those who haven't been following, the emergence of the app shocked the financial markets and wiped billions off the share prices of US tech giants as DeepSeek became the most downloaded free app in the US in just a week. DeepSeek is said to be built for a fraction of the cost of its more established rivals because it doesn't use as many advanced chips. Anyway, President Trump called it a wake-up call for the US tech industry. This has been a colossal story over the past week, and it's continuing with news about 1 million email addresses being leaked from the platform, which has emerged probably just hours before we were recording this on Friday afternoon UK time. So, as I said earlier, it's a fast-moving story. Erin, what were your initial thoughts when you heard the news? Is this something that you saw coming?
I definitely didn't see it coming. I was quite surprised. I mean, this is a company founded just a year ago in China, and they've already developed an open source platform to match the performance of leading models at a tenth the cost. So my first reaction was, wow, Silicon Valley now has a serious competitor to consider. But that was quickly followed up by, how did they achieve it? And what are the implications? And I think that's the story we're seeing fold out, right? Like this, we were joking before the call. I think this is going to be a movie when all is said and done, right? Because there are so many twists and turns to the story.
Yeah, it really does feel that way. And I think that by the time this comes out, there'll be another 3 or 4, but it's definitely a case of stay tuned for all of the details. But getting back onto the platform itself, I mean, what's your impression of how DeepSeek works and how do you think it compares in a practical term, I guess, to its rivals?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it has a different approach. So, what they have done is they have multiple agents in their model. It is a different approach that these little small experts or agents essentially can go off and solve things independently or collectively, which makes the model more efficient. It also reduces energy consumption, right? Like, this is actually a really, really big one because you see all the news about all the data centers and everything that everyone feels that they were going to need. So this really flips the model on its head and challenges what really is needed as we start to scale. Do we need all of the content? Can we train different ways? So those are some of the things that I think people, at least Silicon Valley, are seriously thinking about right now, which again isn't a bad thing. It's a different way, right? And if it's a better mousetrap and it makes things more efficient and effective, great.
Yeah, well, it does seem like more competition the better in many ways, but there are certainly concerns, aren't there? The fact that it's from China, and we talk a lot about misinformation, disinformation. I mean, do you think we're right to be concerned about the scale of potential mis and disinformation that could be
A
spread
hundred
by the
percent.
platform?
A
Yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
There are significant concerns regarding the scale of potential misinformation and disinformation being spread out of this platform. From data privacy, have you read DeepSeek's terms of service?
I can't say I have.
It's definitely worth a read. It's been widely reported that users are giving away not only their personal data, including their inputs, outputs, the documents that it's reviewing, but it's also collecting device information, your chat messages, your keystrokes, and much more. So it is very invasive. From a mis and disinformation, yes, that is a concern, but so is censorship. So I actually had the team run head to heads on answers from OpenAI and DeepSeek. We asked things about Taiwan, Tiananmen Square, anything critical of the Chinese government, and the answers were all censored. It was also interesting to see how the responses differed when you ask it about American brands, where they show up, how they're nuanced in the feedback that comes back. So I think you said in your introduction, as millions are already using this platform and it's their source of truth, these are serious concerns around misinformation. I mean, it's number one in the App Store. I am not someone who's going to be downloading it though.
No, that's a good point. I was just going to bring that point up. Really, I mean, is it something that you'd advise? People who work at OPRG.
Well, I mean, no, I think many companies have already issued blocks of the technology. As I said, in the terms of service, it is very invasive. And so, with any AI platform, right, you want to make sure that it is not training on your information, your inputs, your outputs. These are kind of standard things that you want to be looking for across these platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fascinating to see, as I say, what twists and turns we'll see over the coming days with DeepSeek. But it'd be good to talk about the industry more generally when it comes to AI. I mean, do you think PR is really kind of making strides to get up to speed with all it needs to do regarding AI? I know it's a big question, but good to get your thoughts on proprietary AI systems from the big agencies and holding companies versus what's on the market and where you think the industry is really.
It's a big question. So let
It
me
is.
try and unpack it for you. So the clients and teams that I speak to are bullish on AI, and I believe they should be. There are many exciting things AI can do to make our work in PR more effective and efficient. So things like drafting press releases, performing sentiment analysis, monitoring the media are kind of low hanging fruit. Moreover, AI really enables us to do new things that weren't possible before AI, such as creating synthetic audiences, right? So instead of using big data to create a fancy write up on a PowerPoint slide that shows your target, right, with indexes of them over and under performing, right? We can now turn that into an agent that you can live chat with, right? It just contextualizes the audience in a different way. But like everyone, we're on a journey, right? I'm very excited about the journey, and I'm most excited about what's yet to come, right? Because again, this is a very volatile space. Things shift on a daily basis, and there is a lot still yet to come. And I think that has a lot of fantastic potential for PR. Regarding the second part of your question, proprietary AI versus off the shelf AI, we see that the enterprise models like ChatGPT and others are super solid. However, when you take the data that the big holdcos possess and you imbue it into agents, it really elevates the knowledge of those agents and the outputs improve significantly. So we are definitely seeing the power of data plus enterprise models to yield incredible outcomes for our clients.
That's really good. It's really good to hear. Are there any sort of examples you can give of how you've been using it in a way that's been really effective? I'm not necessarily asking you to name clients or anything, but it'd be good to get a bit more detail on
I
that.
think, again, I think there is immense potential in PR around synthetic audiences, right? So the ability to take big data on, well, let's play with journalists, right? So if you take all of the materials that a journalist has written, right, and use that as part of a knowledge file, you can then query your pitch against that to craft a better pitch for journalists. Now, I've spoken to a lot of journalists to get a temperature on how they feel about that, right? And most are actually really excited because they think, wow, I'm actually going to get better pitches, right? So it's going to make my job easier. And again, I think it's about driving a level of precision in PR, making us more efficient and effective. That's really what we're seeing.
Great. I mean, that does sound very practical. As a journalist myself, I do, although on the one hand, it initially sounds a bit creepy, as if someone's creating an avatar of me and what I would like. Actually, in practical terms, that could be very good. I mean, I was thinking earlier on today how I would absolutely love it if there was a way to immediately take a press release and turn it into an article of set length that goes with our house style. That's one thing. I don't know if that's up to the PR agencies or the publishers to work on, but that would be, I would give someone a lot of money and possibly a hug if they could do that.
I mean, that's a really good point, right? So if you think about governance, governance is on two sides. There's a lot of governance issues on the agency side, but also on the publisher side. And the publishers that we've been talking to have instituted AI detectors for their writers, for the content they're getting, to look at what's the threshold for how much AI is used in an article, right? And so, in your example of the press release and turning it into a story, that would be an AI story. Would it pass the publisher's blockers, right? We don't yet know the thresholds, right? We're on a journey. Like, there is no rule book yet, really. Those are some of the standards I bet are going to become probably in 2025, I would say.
Interesting. Yeah. No, that does make me think. I mean, there's a few other things I've heard recently about, some publishers apparently saying they don't want any pitches or press releases written by AI. I've heard that sort of anecdotally, which I think is interesting. I mean, obviously a lot of PR professionals and editors are kind of critical about generally the standards of writing in press releases. So some of them might say, well, it's worth trying something to sort of generally make them all a bit more consistent. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I believe that the industry will align to a standard threshold. I think no AI isn't going to be possible in the future, but there has to be a threshold. Is it 20%? Is it 25%? I don't know, right? But I'm sure that publishers and others and as an industry will all align on some kind of standard moving forward.
Interesting, yeah, and it'd be good to get an idea of as much as you could say about where OPRG is with its sort of AI strategy at the moment.
So, OPRG is fortunate to be part of Omnicom, which gives us access to a broad suite of technologies. That said, our journey, like everyone else's, is a marathon, right? Not a sprint. We have a terrific AI leadership team that goes across all of our agencies. They are doing a fantastic job re-looking at our existing offerings, and they are also unearthing net new opportunities. I am blown away by the work and the innovations that I see from them, but it's not all rosy, right? Change management is hard. It requires frequent communications. It requires significant AI training to ensure that we're bringing the whole team on this journey and that they're all empowered, right? And so I think this is where 2025, there's going to be a lot of work spent to make sure that, this is democratized, everyone is empowered, and we all move together.
Great, that's really good to hear. And yeah, I mean, do you feel that you're really getting the advantage of being able to talk to colleagues in the wider Omnicom group, from the advertising side and other parts of the business when it comes to benefiting the PR businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think Omnicom is doing a lot at the center to quickly identify and provision AI technology. So we as OPRG are obviously benefiting from that at a broad scale, but we also have specific PR technologies that are getting updated with AI, right? And generative AI built within them. So I think it is a mixture of these things that are really helping us at the moment.
Brilliant. Good to hear. So, finally, I wanted to come on to some predictions. I mean, I've obviously sort of touched on some of them before, and it feels like it would be unfair to make any predictions on DeepSeek right now. But
I predict there will be a movie.
could you see starring
Ooh,
or is
that
that
I
I'm putting you on the
don't
spot now?
know.
I think the problem is we don't really know who they are, so it's
Yeah.
hard to know. Is it Jason Statham? Is it Keanu Reeves?
Ooh, he would be a good one for it. Yep.
Feels a bit Matrixy, doesn't it?
It does feel Matrixy.
Lawrence Fishburne, maybe. Well, I'll have to have a bit of a think about that, but I'd certainly like to see it. But yeah, any other thoughts?
For predictions, I would say reputation management for sure. The need to protect corporate reputation has never been more critical. And it's also never been more challenging. With the proliferation of platforms like, the LLM models, fringe media, podcasts, coupled with misinformation, disinformation, deep fakes, the risks are really unprecedented to brands today. I mean, I've never seen them at the levels that they're at right now. So I think that one for sure is a huge prediction. And I'll give you a fun one. So regarding agentic AI, I actually asked my personal AI agent to come up with a prediction for PR. And it predicted the rise of PR executives in a box.
In a box?
Uh, in a box. It said these agents would autonomously identify media opportunities, craft strategies, and even initiate pitches. So I think that's a pretty bullish prediction from my AI agent. I definitely don't think that will come to pass in 2025.
No. And to be clear, in a box isn't a reference to the return to the office strategies.
I don't know. I'd have to ask my agent that.
Yeah. Least said about that, the better. But well, that's absolutely fascinating, and yeah, it's obviously something that we'll continue to watch, and hopefully we'll speak again about this a bit further down the line. Yeah, so a big thank you to Erin for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights. We really appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and hopefully, catch up soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, if you've enjoyed today's episode, we'd love it if you could leave a review, please, wherever you access PR Week's Beyond the Noise podcast. Stay tuned for another podcast from us in the next couple of days when we'll be looking at AI again, but from a slightly different perspective. Until then, thanks for listening and goodbye.